Hello everyone. Welcome back to the beginner photography class. Most professional photographers say it's good to know from scratch what are the basic photography terms for a camera. Today is the third story of the common terms and definitions photo. All you need to know to start a novice photographer. If you are new to this topic, it may be useful to go through the first parts in order. The basic working principle of the camera. Cameras are optical instruments used to capture images. When the subject passes through the lens shutter enters a sealed box and records the picture on the image sensor. The camera is a photosensitive medium. Film cameras store images on film, and digital cameras create images on the sensor and save them. This is the highlight of today's session. Camera Basic Photography Terms Part 3b. 3 Metering Mode. 435mm versus 50mm. 5 What is f-stop? 6 What is sweet spot? 3 What is metering mode? What does metering mean? Metering is how the camera determines the correct shutter speed and aperture based on the ISO and the amount of light entering the camera. Metering is used to measure the brightness of the subject. The camera optimizes exposure by adjusting shutter speed, aperture, f-number, and ISO sensitivity according to the brightness of the subject, which is measured using the camera's built-in metering sensor. Metering, viewfinder photography. Metering is used to measure the brightness of the subject. The metering mode determines which areas of the frame are used by the camera to measure subject brightness and how the camera sets exposure. Metering mode. In photos, metering mode refers to how the camera determines exposure. Cameras usually allow users to choose between spot, center-weighted averaging or multi-area measurement modes. A variety of measurement modes allow you to select the most suitable measurement mode for use in various lighting conditions. Let me explain that metering is used to measure the brightness of a subject. The following photo was taken downtown, and the metering mode was center-weighted average metering. The following 4 example photos allow you to set the subject brightness and frame area exposure according to the metering mode. Arranged together for comparison. Spot metering allows the camera to measure the light reflected from the person's face and expose properly for that, instead of adjusting exposure for the much brighter light around the hairline. With the face properly exposed, the area around the back and hairline will become overexposed. Center-weighted average metering works on the assumption that the most important part of the image is probably in the center. It measures the whole scene but places extra emphasis on the light values in the middle. Center-weighted averaging is a bit of a throwback. Partial metering is a camera metering mode in which the metering is weighted at the center of the viewfinder. Unlike center-weighted in which the camera averages the exposure based on the reading at the center. Partial metering will enable correct exposure of your subject. However, the background will be overexposed. Matrix metering or evaluative metering mode is the default metering mode on most DSLRs. It works similarly to the above example by dividing the entire frame into multiple zones, which are then all analyzed on individual basis for light and dark tones. In camera photos, metering is everything. Almost all. It means that it is that important. Camera Auto Exposure Lock. AEL, aka AE Lock, is a function that can be used when you want to reframe the scene, but keep the current exposure from changing. It allows the camera to maintain the same brightness between shots. The AEL function is useful when shooting a number of pictures that you want to stitch together later into a panorama. AE/AF lock is a camera feature that allows you to lock focus and exposure values when taking pictures. AE stands for auto exposure. Exposure refers to the brightness of an image. AF stands for autofocus. 4. What's better, 35mm or 50mm? 50mm is a prime lens, and it's a bit longer than 35mm, so you get a slightly better depth of field and better bokeh or background blur. It can be found in all camera manufacturers and can be purchased at a relatively low price. The 35mm and 50mm lenses are used a lot by professionals and are one of the most recommended lenses. The 35mm lens can be used for almost anything: landscapes, portraits, travel shots, macro photography, street photography, real estate photography, product photography, just about everything. "50mm lenses are fast lenses with a fast maximum aperture. The most basic 50mm lenses are typically f1.8, a very wide aperture. This means they are great for low-light photography, e.g. low-light indoor shooting, as they allow more light into the camera's sensor. Is 35mm better than 50mm? What's more, if you'll be working in tight spaces, or conversely, want the ability to capture more of the scene in a single shot and have more of the background in focus, the 35mm is the way to go. On the other hand, if you want greater reach regarding focal length, a 50mm lens will serve you better. What is f-stop? What is the f-stop on a camera? An f-stop is a camera setting that specifies the aperture of the lens on a particular photograph. It is represented using f numbers. The letter f stands for the focal length of the lens. The focal length can also change the perspective and proportion of the image. The longer the focal length, the narrower the angle of view and the higher the magnification. The shorter the focal length, the wider the angle of view and the lower the magnification. Let's take a look at the focal length of the composition. See the diagram below to see the focal length in action. The subject enters the lens through the field of view. The image passing through the optical center of the lens is recorded backwards to the image sensor. The distance between the center lens and the sensor is called the focal length, usually expressed as a millimeter. The distance from the optical center of the lens to the subject is called the working distance. What does the f1.4 mean? The lower the f-stop number, the larger the aperture, the more light enters the camera. So, f1.4 means the aperture is pretty much all the way open, and lots of light is entering the camera. For example, some lenses don't go below an f4 and others can go down to an f1.2. What f-stop is sharpest? The sharpest aperture of your lens, known as the sweet spot, is located 2 to 3 f/stops from the widest aperture. What is sweet spot? How do I find my camera's sweet spot? For a lens that has a maximum aperture of f3.5, the sweet spot of your lens resides somewhere between f8 and f11. Similarly, if your lens has a maximum aperture of f1.4, the sweet spot of your lens is located somewhere between f2.8 and f4. And this simple rule of thumb works with most every lens you'll ever own. However, this is an explanation that you need to know the sweet spot as an experience with your own lens. It is not indicated on the lens or anywhere in the manual. Take a look at the following example photos and notice the change in the sharpness of the background of the photo as the f number is large or small. Meaning your 50mm lens cannot focus close enough to get a lock on your subject, leaving them out of focus. With a 35mm lens you can focus closer than the 50mm lens. Some people may think that photography is easy. However, the picture shows us an accurate and honest result. If you want to take your photography skills up to the next level, I encourage you to attend community college photography group classes or college classes. To learn systematically based on the pictures, and the camera will be more capable. Today, I introduced Camera Basic Photography Terms Part 3B. It was information that I wish everyone knew. I am simple how to practice. As easy as possible. But if you understand this, it seems that shooting on camera is not that difficult. In the next video, I will show you some more informative aspects of photography.